key to a man's soul. All throughout the ages, man has used music to tell stories, convey feelings, or just pass the time. Everyone can tell the difference between a happy and a sad tune, and everyone has the ability to link music that sounds a certain way to certain emotions, feelings, or events. No one has taught us this. It's already wired into our brains. As the very progressive film music composer Thomas Newman once said, "What makes music sad?" Well, a brilliant question. His answer was, it takes on the physical qualities of something sad, meaning if it's sad, a melody will move in a stepwise manner. It will tend to be slower, as you are when you're sad. It takes on the physical characteristics of an emotional state. Scientists have also done a lot of research to find out how this works exactly. They've actually found that certain types of music or certain moments in music increase the amount of dopamine in our brain. Just listen how the following music can make you feel a certain way. It can even tell a short story, or just put you in a very specific mood. Like the start of an adventure. Complete relaxation. Or tension. Part 1. History. Vivaldi made his four seasons to be exactly that, the music of summer, spring, autumn, and winter. He basically made the soundtrack to the four seasons. The sound of his music matches the feel of something that has, by itself, nothing directly to do with music. Another example would be Gustav Holst. He made music to go with the planets in our solar system. Jupiter is a song that sounds grand and magnificent, while Venus sounds more magical and whimsical. Anything can be supported by music. Any feeling or event can be enhanced by it. Even the earliest films, the ones without any sound, were accompanied by a fitting tune on the piano. Without the music, you immediately get the feeling something is missing. The jokes don't hit home. It's almost eerie. The same thing goes nowadays for, say, a video on YouTube. Any video that doesn't really require sound, like maybe someone making a drawing or doing a stunt on his bike, is pretty much always accompanied not by the sound you would expect, but by a fitting tune, mostly a musical piece the performing artist likes. When there is no music, you get the feeling something is off, and people get bored way more easily as well. Part 2. Movies. As I said before, earlier movies didn't have any sound, but at least had some live music. But technology progressed, and the movie industry soon managed to add sound to their movies. And with sound came the music. And gone was the live music.
Now get this. Blue sky, smiling at me, me. Nothing but little blue signs. Do I see? Do. Bluebird.
When some of the earliest films still had improvised scores on piano or sometimes an orchestral score, soon people figured out that music could be written to the movie. The earliest soundtracks were played on cue to the movie the audience was watching. Those old film scores often tried to represent the emotions and moods on screen as accurately as possible. There really wasn't that much to experiment with. As technology progressed, the movie industry did too. Filmmakers became more experimental and progressive in their filmmaking, as did the soundtrack writers and film score writers. Before, a sad scene in a movie would naturally be accompanied by a melodramatic violin, which of course still happens in even more modern movies. Or a triumphant scene with the orchestra going all out. The mere fact that old movies did this and modern movies haven't really changed the style that much, that of course doesn't mean there hasn't been any progress at all. Nowadays, there are far more progressive and experimental movie scores. However, most film scores are still made in the traditional way. After all, a soundtrack's first purpose should be to, well, accurately represent what you are actually seeing on the screen. It should support the emotions of the characters and the situations in which they find themselves. However, by implementing music in a different way and sometimes experimenting, you can give a movie a whole different meaning, or you could look at it in a completely different way.
I'll just walk home.
Okay.
Can I have some money?
You don't have any?
No.
You're 12 years old. You shouldn't be walking around without money, okay, Shelly?
This is very hard to achieve and took, well, a lot of experimenting to begin with. Let me give you a few examples of certain movies that used music in a certain way or had a really specific or special score. American Beauty's score was written by Thomas Newman. He's deliberately used very weird instruments, very non-conventional. For example, the marimba, xylophone, tablas, some bird calls, dulcimer, banjo, ukulele, detuned mandolin, phonograph, steel guitar, and the Yui. So even though the movie is set in suburban America, you get the feeling something is off and not everything is as it seems. The main piano melody in the score for The Social Network truly captivates the main character's loneliness. He's running around campus late at night, only followed by this haunting, eerie, lonely piano melody. This is pretty much in the beginning of the movie, so you are pretty much instantly told what kind of character you're dealing with by the music alone.
Go get him, boy.
Sometimes small details make soundtracks fun, as is the case with RoboCop's soundtrack. His main theme for when he finally gets out and starts patrolling the city has a sort of mechanical clang to it, which mirrors RoboCop's own footsteps when he walks around the station. The movie Drive deliberately has a very slow, artistic pacing, and the soundtrack is no different. In this movie, it's very important how the tone is set, so in this scene, we don't really see much happening, save for he's pulling the girl behind him very slowly, but then the music sets in and you are lulled into a false sense of calmness and nothingness. But then a few seconds later, he suddenly turns around, the movie speeds up, and he kicks the guy's face into a bloody pulp.
Call it. Call it, yes. For what? Just call it.
Nowadays, we are so used to movies having music in them that we automatically expect every movie to have a soundtrack. Some movies deliberately choose to not have any music playing. Since it's not what we were expecting, we immediately feel no longer at ease, and it can even feel like you're no longer even watching a movie. It adds some extra realism to it. That's why a lot of scenes in No Country for Old Men, especially the ones with the killer in them, have so much more of an impact just because there is no music to guide you.
Win everything. How's that?
Just tend to win everything, call it.
Part 3. Non-Fiction. Music is sometimes also added to things that, well, are not entertainment products, such as documentaries. A documentary in itself is, well, it's kind of a hybrid. It tries to inform you, and it also tries to entertain you. Some documentaries have some really progressive images going on and are really artful, and some of them are more focused on bringing you some news. Most have, well, more to do with filmmaking than with actual news making. So, soundtracks are a logical addition to documentaries. Sometimes it's used functionally, such as in Kim Jong-il, for example. Here the music is North Korean state propaganda music, of which the Kim Jong-il documentary is partially about. Music can also be something they filmed on the spot, such as in Restrepo, where one soldier plays the guitar of a passed-away soldier. Lastly, there is the news. It doesn't have a soundtrack yet, but let's talk about it anyway. News is not in itself an entertainment product. Everything artistic is stripped from it. Yes, there are cameras and you're watching videos, but it's all about what you show and not about how you show it. It's not how the message is conveyed, but it is that in itself the message is conveyed to begin with. Music in the news would completely alter the meaning of what you see, or it would influence you in a really big manner. It would influence you in such a way that you probably won't even realize it, but you might change your opinion. If music would be added to the news, objectivity would be removed, because a subliminal layer of emotion is added to what you are showing. Say if we take a bunch of warmongering president speeches, for example, and put some glorious Starship Trooper music underneath it, it will probably inspire a whole bunch of patriotism inside you.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air.
Have no choice but to drive Saddam from Kuwait by force. We will not fail.
We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be.
Every nation in this coalition has chosen to bear the duty and share the honor of serving in our common defense.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
I report to the American people and to the world. The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda.
Another example. If you use a really exciting bit of music for a bad situation, or a bit of tense music, then you are not being objective. The news item in itself is bad, and people realize that, but people should be left to themselves to judge whether the news or not is bad. It would completely negate the objectivity of the news, and it would probably turn it into a true entertainment product. So yes, it might actually be more fun to watch the news from that day forward, but we really shouldn't want that.
Well, as you know, workers are being sent in and they're getting, like a year's dose of radiation just within like 10 minutes at a time.
The mood turned violent in Tahrir Square. As pro-Mubarak supporters came out in force, there were clashes with the anti-Mubarak movement.
You cannot get to them in many cases because the roads are flooded to their homes. And so I just saw some people bring in jet skis. They are going out on jet skis.
Soundtracks and scores are way more important than people give them credit for usually. We've known for centuries that music is the gateway to the soul, and it can make people feel emotions. Music is probably the most powerful tool to influence people, without them even knowing it maybe. The entertainment industry has known this for a long time. Maybe other industries will follow along. If it were transferred to the news agencies and the media, journalism would absolutely lose its objectivity. It would no longer be true journalism. However, the message it would convey would be more powerful, maybe. People would probably be more stimulated to take action, for example, if what they are seeing moves them more. But we have to ask ourselves, is that the true purpose of journalism to begin with? That is a whole different question.